Hey guys, it's Alyssa. Thanks so much for stopping by. In this video, I'm going to be sharing 3 delicious Instant Pot recipes to help keep your kitchen cool this summer. So the first recipe I have to share with you is this delicious Boursin chicken and pasta recipe. So here's everything you're going to need for this meal. You're going to need some chicken breasts, some minced garlic, cherry tomatoes, some onion, butter, and of course, Boursin cheese, Italian seasoning, heavy cream, chicken broth, and then any type of your favorite pasta. So the very first thing I did was I diced up my chicken breast into large cubes, as you can see here, and then I seasoned it with the blend seasoning, which is just salt, pepper, and garlic. If you don't have that, don't worry, just use some salt and pepper to taste. And then when I was done with that, I also diced up a quarter of an onion. Next, I got about 1 tablespoon of olive oil and about 2 tablespoons of butter into my Instant Pot on the saute mode, and I melted down the butter and I let it heat up just for a few. I then added in my diced onion into my pot and I sauteed that for about 3 to 4 minutes just until it was translucent, and then once that was done I added in my cubed chicken breast and I cooked that for about 4 to 5 minutes, and then I moved on to add in my minced garlic. I added about 2 tablespoons of that and I cooked that for about 2 minutes. I then added in my seasoning, so I added in about a tablespoon or so of the Italian seasoning, and then I added in my liquid. So I did 1 can of low sodium chicken broth, about 2 cups or so, and then a 1/4 cup of water and a 1/4 cup of heavy cream. Next, I added in about 12 ounces of pasta, and then I put the lid on my pot. I set it to high pressure to cook for 6 minutes. Once it was done, I did a quick release. I removed the lid, and when it was still very hot, I added in my Boursin cheese. I broke that up, I mixed it in so it can start melting. Next, I added in about 2 cups of cherry tomatoes, and then I set the Instant Pot on saute mode. I put the lid on and I let it cook for just a few minutes until the tomatoes had cooked down and the cheese was completely melted. I topped it with some Parmesan cheese and I served it alongside some steamed green beans that I topped with some salt and pepper. This meal was so good, so easy. I didn't have to heat up the kitchen in the middle of summer, and my family loved it. I think if you try this one out, you're really going to enjoy it. The next Instant Pot recipe I have to share with you is this delicious roast with potatoes, carrots, and onion. So here's everything I used for this recipe. I had a large beef chuck roast in my freezer that I needed to use up, so I grabbed that out to defrost. And then for my seasoning, I did onion powder, garlic powder, smoked paprika, and then just salt and pepper to taste. And then for my veggies, I went with carrots, onions, and then a mixture of potatoes. I needed to use up these potatoes I had in my pantry, so I have some potato medley here and also some russet potatoes. And then I put in some minced garlic, and then beef broth, water, Worcestershire sauce, butter, olive oil, and then cornstarch. So the first thing I needed to do was mix together my seasoning for my roast. So in a small bowl, I mixed together about 1 teaspoon of onion powder, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, half a teaspoon of smoked paprika, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of pepper, gave it all a good mix, and then I sprinkled that all over my roast on all sides before I needed to get that into my Instant Pot. I then turned my Instant Pot on to saute mode. I let that heat up for just a bit, and then I drizzled in 1 tablespoon of olive oil and about 2 tablespoons of butter, and I let that heat up and melt down the butter for about 30 seconds. I then added in my roast. So I let the first side brown for about 3 to 4 minutes. You do not want to move it while it's browning, and then I used tongs and I turned it over to let it brown on the other side for another 3 to 4 minutes. And then I made sure to get all of the sides as well a little brown once that side was done. And then last minute, I decided to add in a little bit of cooking sherry. That's why this wasn't in the lineup in the very beginning. When I shared all of my ingredients, I just kind of went on a whim and added it in so I can kind of remove all of those brown bits as best as possible at the bottom. So I just added in about a tablespoon or so, and I scraped the bottom to remove the brown bits. Once I was done doing that, I added in all of my veggies. So I chopped up about 4 large carrots into chunks. I cut up 1 medium-sized onion into large slices, and I cubed about 1 pound of potatoes, and I added that all in. And then once I got that all added in, I added in 2 cans of beef broth, or about 4 cups total. I also added in a couple tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. I put the lid on and I made sure it was set to seal, and I put it on high pressure for 1 hour, and my roast was about 3 pounds. So you just want to make sure you're going to cook it long enough depending on the size of your roast. Once the hour was up, I did a natural release for 10 minutes. So at this point, you don't want to touch anything on the pot. You just want to let it depressurize on its own for 10 minutes. And then after the 10 minutes, I turned the vent to release all of the steam that was left in the pot. And then I transferred the roast onto a plate along with all of the vegetables. Next, I switched my Instant Pot to saute mode. I waited for the liquid inside to come to a boil, and then I mixed up 2 tablespoons of cornstarch with a 1/4 cup of water. I mixed it up really well before adding it into my liquid. I poured it in, mixed it up, and I let it come to a complete boil and let it heat up and thicken to turn it into a gravy. While my sauce was thickening up, I shredded my beef with 2 forks into large chunks. So once I served dinner, I just topped everything with that delicious gravy once it was fully thickened up, and I served it alongside some delicious dinner rolls. This recipe is so easy. It's a 1-pot dinner that will please any picky eater. I was so surprised on how much my girls gobbled this meal up. It's the perfect family-friendly dinner. So the last recipe I have to share with you are these delicious steamed eggs. So simple, and they pair perfectly with some buttered toast. So here's everything you're going to need for this recipe. You're going to need, of course, some eggs. You'll need some crumbled feta cheese, and I know that sounds weird, but trust me, it's delicious. You'll also need some green onions or chives, some butter, and then either heavy cream or half and half. I just had half and half, so that's what I went with. And then you'll also need some ramekins to cook your eggs in. You'll also need to make sure to insert your steam rack into your pot to place the ramekins on. So the first thing I did was I buttered each of my ramekins with about 2 tablespoons of butter. So I just made sure my butter was soft enough, and then I just smeared it all over each of the bowls, and I made sure to cover all of the sides. Next, I added about a 1/2 tablespoon of half and half into each of the bowls. I then carefully cracked 1 egg into each bowl. Then next, I just chopped up about 1 or 2 tablespoons of green onion. If you don't have green onion and you have chives, or that's what you prefer, then just use that. That's actually what's in the recipe, and I don't have chives, so that's why I went with the green onion. And then I just sprinkled each of the eggs with a little bit of the green onion. Next, I carefully placed the ramekins into the pot. So I couldn't fit all 4 of my bowls because they're a little bit larger than traditional ramekins. So I just started out with 3, and then I cooked the last one when this one was done. And then I poured in 1 cup of water to the bottom of the pot. I put the lid on and I made sure that the steam release was set to the sealing position, and I set it to cook at low pressure for 2 minutes. And when it was done, I just did a quick release of the pressure. I carefully removed the ramekins from the pot, and I topped each one with a little crumbled up feta cheese, and I lightly sprinkled a little bit of salt and pepper on top. So I just served this alongside some buttered toast. You gotta have some toast to dip into these delicious eggs, and then some sausage on the side. This breakfast comes together so quickly and it's absolutely delicious. If you're looking to switch up your morning eggs, definitely try this recipe out. Alright, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you're new here, I would love to have you, so make sure to subscribe down below. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!